Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martorano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hi, everybody. Welcome again to the Behavioral Corner. It's me, Steve Martorano, right where you left me, hanging on the corner, waiting for some interesting person to pass by. It's a great conceit, isn't it? Anyway, the Behavioral Corner is a podcast about everything because everything affects our behavioral health. And we hope you've found us in the vast sea of podcasts. And if so, we'd love to hear from you. You know how to do all that. Like, review. Apparently, there's a place you can review us because the world doesn't have enough critics. But we like feedback. So that's what the Behavioral Corner is all about. We are returning to a very familiar theme on the program. We've done it many times over the years because it's an important thing to remember, and that is that in spite of the fact that substance abuse issues still plague us, they seem to grow larger all the time, and that is true to a certain extent and certainly more deadly over the years. It is important to remind people that in spite of that sometimes grim picture, people get better. They do. They actually get better. And in my experience in talking to them, they often thrive. So we got to remind people of that because good news travels slowly. Bad news is always with us. We offer you then another voice in recovery. That's what we call it. Millions of people have traveled the same journey that our guest, Ken Cox, has traveled. Perhaps Ken has a bit of a nuance to his. He's gone from, homelessness to the presidency of a very successful company. And he's with us here on the corner. Ken, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Steve. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Thank you.
So let's begin with your story. Tell me a story. Tell me about Ken. Tell me where you are right now in your life.
Where I am right now in my life is a fairly exciting place. Life to me today is a gift every single day. And I've not always thought of life that way. When I was younger, I definitely thought of life as a punishment, not a gift. So today I'm a father of two amazing children. My daughter's 16 years old. She is weird as hell, but just in the best possible ways. She's, very interested in school and science and all of those things. And she's also an artist that does just amazing work. So super proud of her across the board. My son is 12. He is amazing as well. Joe is nonverbal autistic and just a bundle of energy. And he knows, when you look at his eyes, you just know that he knows more about this universe than anybody else on it. He just can't communicate it to us, right? My wife, Sarah, she runs our gym. We own a boxing school here in St. Louis. Actually, it's the largest sanctioned boxing school in our district. We have about 500 students, and my wife operates that gym for us. It's called Box STL, and we make the sport of boxing available to anybody from of any kind of skill level, all the way from competition, all the way down to an 8 or an 80-year-old that needs to, release some stress in a physical way. And hopefully get fit and create the mindset there. And outside of that, I run River City Internet Group, which is a group of startup companies, online companies that we founded in 2000. I was one of the founding partners of River City Internet Group back then. And today I'm the president of that company.
Well, that's a resume that anybody can be proud of. And how in the world did you guys decide to start a boxing academy?
I had to stay alive. At the end of the day,
were you a boxer in your youth, or no?
No, I mean, I grew up in a town called Arnold, Missouri. At the time, it was growing really rapidly in St. Louis. And I don't want to get too into politics, but in St. Louis, it was called white flight back then, right? And Arnold was a white flight city. I think it's turned around a lot since I left when I was very young. But in that community, we fought a lot, right? So I moved to Arnold when I was 3. Fights were simply every day. That was just something we did. Outside of that, when I got older, I always kept a part-time job at a bar
Mhm.
for obvious reasons,
Mhm.
right? I always bartended, or I bounced, and I fought a lot there. So when I found myself in looking for an activity that I could do to help me stop drinking,
Uh-huh.
right? I'm 39 years old, and I told my wife, I'm like, I've always really wanted to box. I really have always wanted to do it, but I've never had um the means, which is silly, right? Because you just need boxing gloves. I've always had the means to fight, but I didn't have the means to go somewhere and put gloves on and actually do it as
Try to figure out how to win. It's one thing to know how to fight, another thing to know how to win.
do it as a sport or something for positivity, right? So I always knew I liked doing it, but I didn't have a functional, safe way to do it. So I was like, well, let's try it. Let's figure out boxing. And I went to all these different boxing gyms. And now I'm 40 years old. I'm 310 pounds. I can't go to in St. Louis, the boxing gyms are a little rough, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, here I am, an executive trying to run companies, trying to figure out how to get fit, trying to figure out how to quit drinking. I've lost my insurance. I'm about to lose my wife. I'm about to lose everything in my life. And except for my life, it's the only thing I didn't almost lose. Well, I almost lost it too. And I finally found a gym that I could go to and just hit the heavy bag, right? And that's it. I didn't have to hit anybody else. And I got some training there, and I'm like, okay, I love this. And I went home and I told my wife, I'm like, if I could do that an hour a day, I could do anything. Like, if I can do that for 1 hour a day,
right,
then there's nothing else in the world that I can't do. That became more challenging and challenging. As I was watching the gym, and I'm running my other businesses, which are struggling at the time. 2016 was one hell of a year. Everything was struggling across the board. My life, my health, the businesses, everything. And I could see this gym failing, right? I could tell, like, the bathrooms weren't clean, the people weren't there. The community was awesome, but there was no good central management. And as I saw it going downhill, I told my wife, like, this gym's going to go under. It's going to go under, and I'm going to die.
It was that therapeutic for you.
At the time, I didn't know what else I could do.
Yeah.
Right. Like, nothing else. I couldn't go to the gym and exercise. I couldn't ride the bike. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk to somebody about anything at the time. But something in me is like, if I can't have this, then I don't know how I can survive. Right. So I reached out to the owner. I'm like, what are you doing with this thing? He's like, man, it sucks so bad. I really love it. My wife and I bought it, and we were really going to grow this business, but then my wife got really sick, and I couldn't leave my day job because that was insuring her. So we're just letting this business kind of float because we love the community, but we can't focus on it. So I'm like, well, why don't you give it to me? It's like, well, I can't do that. But we ended up coming up with a wildly creative structure for me to take the gym over. I cashed out my 401k so that we could get it above where we needed it to be financially. My wife came on board to operate the gym while I was doing this. We grew it, and now we're, it's for a boxing school, a wildly successful boxing school here in St. Louis. And our digital platform is being built at the moment. And, long term, I think it's going to be just a beautiful little business that we get to give to the community.
It's an extraordinary story. And boxing, I didn't expect to be talking about with you, but I'm struck by how one of the, I'll use the word cliche, but not, negatively. One of the cliches or truisms, all cliches are true, is boxing has historically been a path out of poverty for a lot of people. There's a lot of redemption stories in boxing. Yours is one of the best ones I've ever heard. That's a remarkable story. But we have, in the context of like journalism, buried the lead, as they say here, and that is that you are sober after having not been sober. So how long has that sobriety been part of your life now?
So that would have been 2016. Well, let's just go back to the very beginning. Drugs and alcohol were just around me my entire life. My mom was a bartender. The very first house that we got together, our apartment, was above a bar, right? So, literally I grew up in a bar, pushing stools together and sleep on it, eating beer nuts, playing shuffleboard, all of it, right? That was my childhood growing up, at least the first few years. And then my mom met my dad in the bar, at the bar she worked at, my stepdad. And then they ended up getting married. And they got married. I think I was 3 years old when they got married, when they met and got married.
Mm-hmm.
He's an alcoholic. My mom's an alcoholic. My mom's a bartender. He works second shift. My house is a party every night at 3 a.m. Like literally,
right.
Dad's getting off, stepdad's getting off work, mom's getting off work. They close up the bar, 10 to 12 people show up at the house, and it's just a good time. So I'm getting people drinks and beers and sipping on them the whole time. By the age of 10, I was drinking every day secretly. Right. At 13, I got in a lot of trouble, a whole lot of trouble at 13. I quit drinking at the age of 13. I still did other recreational cannabis, but at 13, I quit drinking until I turned 22. I got into a pretty bad accident at the age of 20. I got hit by an 18-wheeler, and I was about 18 months in rehab. I lost my original career path, which was camera operators. At that time was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be film and video, and I wanted to be a camera operator. But since I had dislocated my shoulder and hurt my spine a little bit, I couldn't hold the camera anymore. So I went more into management and IT after that. And then started drinking casually, and then going to the bars. And then I wouldn't say casually, but at that point it was back to, just normal, every day, but it was normal for me, right? That's what everybody was doing. So, that was pretty hard until 2016. And, in that year, I went from 220 pounds to 310 pounds.
Wow.
In 1 year, right? Wow. My partner, Steve Zacta, was co-founder of the company. He passed away, lung cancer or throat cancer. Lost all of our anchor tenants. My anchor clients, lost them in 2016 with the coal company collapse. There was a bunch of coal companies that filed bankruptcy that year. And 60% of our business was infrastructure for coal facilities.
Wow.
Lines out to the coal mines so that they could weigh and report back to the market, plus the data center. We operated the data center for the largest coal company in the world at that time. And I got super sick. I had strep throat, oddly enough. And it was like 3 or 4 days into my strep throat, and I got called in to the data center. It was late at night, and I showed up. There was some kind of problem. I wasn't feeling good, but there was some kind of problem with power or UPS or something. I'm not sure. I get there, get the issue resolved, right? The issue's now fixed. And I walk into, they're called heat mitigation rooms, and most people don't know what it is. Basically, it's a 10,000 square foot room that we dump heat from servers from the servers into this giant room so it can dissipate, right? Real estate sometimes is cheaper than the power to run air conditioners. So yeah, I go into this giant room. It's a 10,000 square foot room, and I'm walking through to the elevator to leave, and I just lay down. I can't move at all. Completely froze, can't move, thinking I'm having a heart attack. I'm dying. At that moment, and my wife is pissed at me for this because she didn't know about it until I wrote about it recently. I don't remember a lot of the next stages. The next thing I remember, I'm in the hospital with the doctor, and they're like, they can't figure out what's wrong with me. My blood pressure's shooting up and down. He's like, your heart's fine, dude. Like, your heart's absolutely fine. we can't figure it out, but your blood pressure is going through the roof and then dropping back down. And I was just basically going through this rolling panic attack situation to where I would calm down and I go right back into a panic attack. And if you've ever had a significant panic attack, it feels like you're dying.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So these were just rolling nonstop. And they kept asking me, do you still drink? And I was like, yes. Right.
They did ask you that though. They thought there was some correlation, huh?
He asked me like 4 or 5 times. And then finally he said, when was the last time you had a drink? Now, I've always just been open and honest about my drinking, right? I go to the doctor, he's like, how much you drink? I'm like, 5th a day and about 20 beers, right? So
a day.
That's my day, right? That was my day. I would have, a couple shots in the morning. I'd have a couple beers at lunch. That would last me through till the night. And then I'd sit and program with a 5th of whiskey until 2 or 3 in the morning.
And yet
right?
we're not, and yet did not see it as a problem.
Very occasionally, my doctor would say, "You need to watch that." Right?
Yeah, but I mean, he was talking to you from a physician standpoint about your health. You of course were on the the train to wreck and ruin.
Nobody even like, this is just normal because I'm so functional.
Yeah.
I just go through my day, and this is who I am. This is who I've been for my whole life, for the most part, right?
You had
2 years old.
You had both barrels of the worst thing that can happen to somebody with an alcohol or a substance abuse problem is, one, you're high functioning, and secondly, you grew up in a normal, in the context of a normal alcohol soaked environment, so it didn't look like anybody was doing anything unusual, right?
Yeah. So he asked me, when was the last time you had a drink? I'm like, well, I've had strep throat. So it's been a couple days. He's like, oh, okay. I know exactly what's going on now.
Okay. A couple days, huh?
Yeah. So I was going through withdrawals, and it was pretty significant. And then they did my blood work, and my liver panels were in the 800s, 850, 880, somewhere in there. And he's like, well, I can either help you quit drinking today, or you can leave the office. You're having panic attacks. Go have a couple beers and you'll be fine. And you'll be dead in a couple years.
People don't appreciate how dangerous it is to withdraw from alcohol. It is not a standard withdrawal. I mean, there are no withdrawals that are standard, but as I understand it, alcohol withdrawal without medical supervision can kill you. I mean, we know the image of an opioid user doing cold turkey. It's a horrible experience, but it's not as dangerous as withdrawing from alcohol.
It was scary.
Yeah, right.
And I've done it a couple times now. That was not I would love to say that was the moment in my bucket that said, oh shit, I'm going to change everything. And I haven't drank since that day, but that would be an absolute lie, right? This was several years of arguing, fighting with myself, fighting with the doctors, getting my liver panels back down. You can drink a couple if you want to, if you really think it's, if you can handle it, and then right back to the 5th a day within a couple of days, couple of weeks. Like, oh, nothing happened yesterday. I can do it again today.
But no stints in a traditional substance abuse facility. You didn't go to treatment for this.
No, I did not check myself in at all. I have been in the SMART recovery meetings since then, though.
SMART is the program whereby people try to return to responsible drinking. Am I right about that?
So SMART, and I chose SMART for a lot of reasons. It doesn't have a religious aspect to it, is one of them. And then abstinence is not necessarily the only solution.
Yes.
Right. So for an alcoholic that said, right out of the gate, I knew if you tell me never again, back then, you said you can never drink. Today, I'm fine with never drinking again. I don't know what happened in my brain at some point where I know that I can never drink again.
But the notions of abstinence in a certain point would have been a non-starter for you. A lot of people don't want to. I mean, look, in the world of recovery, particularly in the world of AA, they'll say you're crazy. You can never drink again.
Right.
Not necessarily true. There's so many roads to recovery. Yours, I got to tell you, is an astonishing one. And then the boxing thing, which is also saving your life. So you get 2016 sounded pretty lousy. Of course, you had the pandemic to look forward to a few years later. So,
Well, in that time frame, I mean, I did really well. We got the companies, River City, we got it stable, right? And we had a path to get out of our trouble. My shareholders were phenomenal through this process, right? Bankruptcy was completely off the table, so we knew we weren't going that way. I had a great group that could fund shortfalls, and it was a lot of negotiations and things like that. We had the gym. We're starting. I'm not drinking at the time, right? So I'm dropping weight. I'm at the gym regularly, and we're moving forward. I competed in Golden Gloves. I ended up competing February 28th and 29th of 2021, right? Or right before the pandemic. 2020.
wow. At what point were you homeless?
I wasn't really home. I was born homeless. My mother, for all of her bad things, she busted her ass, right? So she was homeless when she was pregnant with me. When we're at the hospital to have me, my cousins got together and said, hey, we can't let her come home. We can't let her be homeless, right? With a baby. So they got together and got enough money to let me and her move into the apartment above my cousin's bar.
How did Dad turn out?
We won't talk about that.
Okay. You have siblings?
I found out later in life that I have a half sister that I've never met from my biological father. I've also recently realized that my biological father that I've never met, I guess he was in court once when I was 13, but I never met him. I never saw him face to face, and he was signing over custody of me. He has a daughter. I just found out that he passed away. I don't know how I feel about that. Right. I found out like 4 or 5 months ago. I guess I'm still processing that information in my head.
Yeah, I can't.
And then my stepfather had 3 sons and a daughter who lived with me off and on throughout my childhood. And then they had a stepfather that had some other stepchildren as well. So the good thing is growing up in a low income community, there's lots of kids that you can.
Once again, your circumstances seem to match everyone else's. So, I mean, how bad does it, when you're in the middle of it, how bad does it seem? Our guest is Ken Cox. He is the president of the company he's described, and he has just laid out an extraordinary path that leads him where he is today. Very successful, as I said. Has a great family. He is of good cheer, you can see, in spite of the story. And boxing played a role in that and many other circumstances. This is a guy that fought his way out of an actual life-threatening situation. You heard him say it. He was going to drink himself to death. The doctor told him that. And he made the extraordinary decision that, well, that's not a good idea. Let's not do that. You know what, Ken? Your story reminds me of something that I'm always struck by when I talk to folks who have been through situations that have to do with substance abuse, and at the end of it, when they get to the place where they're sober and their lives are so much better, it's almost as though, well, that was pretty rough. That road was pretty rough, and I wouldn't want to do it again. But look where it got me.
And better is subjective. A lot of people believe that, oh, you quit drinking, all your bullshit's gone, right? Well, turns out you're still a little bit of an asshole. But now you got to deal with that sober, right? When you're drunk, you can kind of blow all that shit up like, oh, he's drunk, blah, blah, blah. But when you're sober and you realize that you're still, sometimes
it's a great point that people don't appreciate because they haven't been there, but it's a great rationalization for somebody that's got an enormous he's dragging around an enormous amount of baggage, foolishness and bad behavior, but I drink, give me a break.
Yeah, I was drunk. Like, it's an excuse for everything. And it felt to like, when I really look back at it, everything that I did, I was rewarded when I drank. I got more clients. I got, you know, I mean, I'm not that attractive of a man, but my wife is a beautiful woman, right? So, I was rewarded for that
Yeah,
activity.
yeah. Which turns out to be great in the moment, but in the long run, it's going to wind up catching up
You
to
know,
you.
I'm a pretty simple man, so when you reward me for stuff, I'm going to keep doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, turning that off in your brain is pretty hard to do.
It's very hard to do. Yeah. So do you speak to other people? I mean, you must be around a lot of young people with the gym and everything. Do you have the occasion to talk about your history with alcohol?
I made the decision about 2 years ago with my wife. Not even 2 years ago. This is we come out of COVID, so about 2 years ago, and I hit a couple of bumps in COVID, and then the Smart Recovery meetings opening back up in person again was a huge moment for me. Because I was slipping before that. I was going right back down the same path. So having that community of people that I can go to and talk to very regularly for me has been a significant key to my recovery and staying there.
Did you ever try an AA meeting?
I did at the age of 13. I went through a program called Tough Love, and they had me in the 12-step program then.
And let me guess, as a 13-year-old, you walked into the room and went, "Good God, who are all these old drunken guys?"
I don't, it was a program, for the town that I grew up in, and it being as backwards as it was in so many ways. There were some things that were really progressive about it. And we had programs in our city hall for youth addiction and things like that. And it was a youth program like that I was in an AA. It was youth AA.
But it didn't take for you, right?
I've been on a spiritual journey my entire life, and AA tended to be a very authoritative way of doing things. And I'm just not that kind of person.
Yeah. When people ask me about AA, and I'm not in recovery, but I've been to some meetings and know what it's like, and I think I understand it. And what I tell people, go, come on, AA, come on. And I go, listen, here's the deal. It works for the people it works for. And there are millions of them. And so you want to argue about that? Go ahead. But I'm telling you, it works for the people it works for.
I have seen it work for a lot of people.
Yep.
It's just not my jam. Smart Recovery is mine.
I got it.
Like that works for me.
I got it.
Building tools to have a strategy for how I'm living my daily life, to me is really important, instead of having these 12 steps of things that I have to do, and I have to do them in this order. Didn't really jive for me that well. So
yours is a great example.
Sports, huge.
Yours is a great example of something else that's true about recovery and sobriety, and that is there are many paths. There are many ways to get there. Finding the right one is first of all, deciding that you're looking for a path to recovery, and finding the right one for you, and then staying true to it. I've heard of SMART. I know that in some quarters it's considered controversial, and in others it's like you, because it works. It worked for me, and I'm sober. My life is better off. A remarkable story, Ken. I mean, remarkable story. When you get the boxing, you don't have a website for the boxing?
We do. It's boxstl.com.
Okay. Send me that, and I'll send the link. I'd love to put that link up on the corner.
Yeah.
You have fulfilled your mission and function today of being a voice in recovery.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that a lot. I've talked to a lot of people. They've been down strange roads. Yours is just rich with detail. And I think people listening can gain a lot from this, because, again, you didn't show up here saying, here's how you're going to do it, or else.
No, not it's your path, it's your journey, and I think it's got to be, you have to create it. I needed that step of abstinence. There's no way. I want to live a normal life. I want to be able to go to a convention and grab a beer or have a beer at dinner with a group of people. That's not in the cards for me, right? That's not, I tried it. It doesn't work.
So interestingly enough, without, sobriety, I mean, abstinence is your lifestyle choice now, and not through any programmable mandate, but just the way it came out for you.
Absolutely. Even though the program that I'm in doesn't require it, and there's no punishment for it's like, hey man, I'm sorry you fell off, right? Like, what are you going to do? And they don't, take your stuff. There's no like, oh, here's a reward, and then we're going to take that away. There's none of that stuff, right? It's just people helping people and using tools that we can share, and some of them work and some of them don't.
Yeah, right. Well, there's something interesting about the name SMART for the program, because there's a lot of smart ideas behind this. After all, when you fall off and you relapse or something, there's no need to chastise anybody. They're going to get punished.
Yes.
and
I will say, for the audience, if you're out there and you're looking for, if you've got, deep years of stuff that you're not talking about, the one of the other big keys for me was EMDR therapy, coupled with SMART, coupled with psychotherapy.
Like
all of those things together, I think my recipe was not smart recovery and my wife getting ready to leave me and my kids hating me. Like, that wasn't the only part of the recipe. It was my weekly meetings with my counselor, my weekly meetings with my EMDR therapist.
Yeah.
Right.
It's another point that you make real well. I'm glad to have you to do it. And that is that, this notion of, I got a problem. I'll go into something and it'll be 28 days and I'll be okay at the other end. And as long as I go to my meeting, tell me if you agree on it. Getting sober and staying sober is not one thing. It's a process. You agree with that?
Yes. And it's an ever going process.
Yes.
Right. Just, I look at life and business and parenting as all the same. It's, hey, I'm creating these things in the world and I'm going to screw them up from time to time. And I'm going to try to fix them and get them right back on the right path, or the path that I envision their success of being.
No, it looks like you made it. Ken Cox, thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'd love to have you back again. And if you'll send me the link, I'd love to put the boxing thing up there so people in the Midwest who hear this might gravitate over there. It's been great. Ken, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. And you guys as well. Thank you for listening, watching, sharing, liking, critiquing the Behavioral Corner. We'll catch you next time.
Retreat Behavioral Health has proudly been serving the community for over 10 years. Here at Retreat, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 or visit us at www.retreatbehavioralhealth.com to begin your journey today.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.